Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Stephanie Nelson. Stephanie Nelson is the founder of the Coupon Mom website, which launched the coupon movement that took America by storm in 2008. As a savings expert, Stephanie has appeared on many national and local television shows, including Good Morning America, The Today Show, and The Oprah Winfrey Show. The entrepreneurial coupon mom concept started a national cottage industry of other coupon moms as she inspired women to start profitable websites in their communities. Her book, The Coupon Mom's Guide to Cutting Your Grocery Bills in Half, was a New York Times bestseller. Stephanie currently hosts her podcast, Pivotal People. And having Stephanie on was such a treat. You guys are going to really, really enjoy this episode about the potential of just starting from a small idea that touches your heart and maybe makes you cry to building a multi-million-dollar empire, all because Stephanie wanted to help people that couldn't buy groceries for themselves. And it's heartwarming to just see her success. And I was really on Instagram and I saw the book title, and the book title itself just really drew me in. Imagine more, do what you love, discover your potential. Because I think a lot of women that are at a certain age they hit their second act. They raised their kids, they had a career, and they're ready for something more. They want to give back. Or you were always raising kids, and now you want to see, what is my purpose now? What is my why now? My kids were my why. What's my new why? And I love Stephanie's book and this podcast today because she talks about tuning in to that purpose and learning what that purpose is and how each small step builds on the next. And she never expected her venture of just wanting to be able to give groceries to moms that were working hard and couldn't barely afford groceries to turn into this huge business, to land her on the Oprah Winfrey Show, to be on Good Morning America, to be on the Today Show, to be a New York Times best-selling author. And I love that she went to Bob Goff's workshop for writing 2 years ago, because I have been wanting to go to one of his workshops. So hearing what she had to say about it, she's like, one meeting with Bob is not just a meeting. Like, he helped her with her story to write her book. And that I love too. She is a believer, a Christian mom, and so positive today, so down to earth. We talked about so much more than just finding our purpose, but that is a big topic. We are diving into it today full force. So if you've been wondering, what can you do now? What is your purpose? How to find your purpose? This is the podcast for you. And how to imagine more, how to dream bigger, and how to recognize that it's the big dreams that get the needle moving. Maybe you've just been dreaming too small. So I hope you enjoy this. Without further ado, let's dive into this episode with Stephanie Nelson. I am so excited to welcome Stephanie Nelson to the show today.
Well, thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
So literally, you have written this book Can you tell everybody what the title is? What possessed you to write this book? And why are you the person to write it?
Oh, three really good questions. Well, the book is called Imagine More, Do What You Love, Discover Your Potential. So I've listened to some of your motivation podcasts, and I think we are in the same lane. So I base the story. I am 60 years old, and 23 years ago, I did exactly what your podcast talked about today, talking about finding your path. God gives us a path, doesn't give us all the steps, just everyone else might not understand it, but that's okay because it's your path, it's not their path. Um, and so 23 years ago, I heard a speaker at a conference speak, and the woman was talking about prayer. She had written a book on prayer, and she said that if there's something you love to do, pray about how you can use that to help other people. And that's kind of the equation of finding God's perfect path for your life. I mean, if there's something you love to do and it can help other people, wouldn't that be fabulous? So, yeah, I bought a prayer journal. I prayed about it every day. And on day 11, I kind of got this light bulb moment of an idea. And for 20 years, I worked that idea. It ended up being just a little grassroots effort to try to raise food for charity in my community, trying to get people to buy food, to donate it to our local food pantry. It ended up being the country's largest coupon website. It ended up being this amazing, unexpected project called, it was a website called couponmom.com. It still exists. And so in listening to your podcast, God might start us out on a path, and we have no way of knowing where that's going to lead. But he's not saying, I'm going to show you exactly what the end looks like so you'll be motivated. No, he's saying, trust me step by step. And as I went along my journey, trying to grow this idea and trying to share it with other people and trying to get other people excited about it, I experienced this wonderful growth and learning that I wouldn't have experienced had I known the end or had it gone faster. So I actually wrote this book, the why behind it, because I have two sons in the 20s. And to me, they saw the highlight reel of the story because they lived it. They were children, and this happened over 20 years, but they didn't see the backstory. And as their mother, I want them to know the challenges, the failures, the things that you overcame. I want them to understand that. So I wrote the book because, frankly, in their 20s, I don't think they're too interested in mom's story. But after I'm gone, they might be. I wish my mother had written a book. So I wrote it just to have the story between two covers, but I never intended it for it to get published. And to my surprise, a publisher discovered it. The editor read it, and she said, oh my gosh, I knew the Coupon Mom story, but I didn't know it was a God story. We have to get this story out there. So I'm excited because now my sons are reading it because it's a book. And I'm hearing, and what's neat is that had I known that strangers would read this book, I might not have been as brutally honest. But my sons aren't going to grow and learn unless I'm brutally honest. So I was really honest. And now I'm glad when I wrote it that I didn't know it would be published, because now I think it actually will be helpful to people. It's not sugar coated. Who wants to hear someone say, oh, listen to how successful I was? How interesting is that? I want to know what was hard, and I want to know how to get through that. So my hope is that people will read it, they'll get inspired, and they will look for their own thing they love to do and figure out how to use it to help other people and experience their own amazing journey.
And I love that it all came from a simple idea, because I think so many of us are afraid to follow our ideas, and your simple idea grew into more and more and more. And you had to take these steps each part of the way, and by faith, really. So can you tell everybody a little bit of your journey? Because I know for me, it all started, I thought it started backwards. I thought it started backwards. Now I see it happen exactly how it was supposed to be. But I thought, why would I write a book before I have a studio? Why would I have a, have a studio before I have a podcast? Why would I, I just thought everything was backwards the way it was supposed to happen.
But so specifically, and I share this with people because my example of what I started with was so small and so tiny that I always say, if God could do something with what I thought was fun, then he can surely use your gifts and abilities. So specifically, when the speaker said, pray about what you love to do, I was a stay-at-home mom on a tight budget with 2 little boys. And honestly, I was this was the year 2000. This is before coupons were ever popular. They were very unpopular. I like to use grocery coupons. I was that lady who got stuck behind in line with a stack of coupons, but I'm getting free groceries. No one liked being behind me. I always warned them. I always said, I might not be the right person for you to stand behind today. At, at any rate, what ended up happening was I went to church one day as I'm praying about this. It was day 11. And I went to church, and the church bulletin had an appeal for food donations for the local food pantry. Now, 2 things. I live in a nice community. I was so naive. I didn't even know that hunger was an issue in my backyard. I didn't know there was a food pantry. But number 2, every item on the list was a coupon item. And I had coupons for those items. So I thought, okay, this will be fun. I'll just go to the store tomorrow and see what I can buy for charity with coupons. And I got $60 of groceries, but it only cost me $10. And that was like the beginning of, wait a minute, there's something here. I delivered it to the food pantry. And here's that you talked about just taking steps. At the time, I thought, well, this is a great idea. You can get so many groceries for charity at practically no cost. I will tell the director of the charity this idea, and naturally then she could grow it, right?
Right.
So I sit in the waiting room to meet with the director of the charity. I wait half an hour, and that God had me there for a reason. The waiting room is filled with women like me, with kids like mine. The only difference is they had to go to the charity to get food, and it broke my heart. Because I'm thinking these women probably worked a full day. They're dressed nicer than I was. They've got their little kids. They can't go home because they don't have any food there. But thank goodness there's a place they can come where they can get a couple bags of food. The director never saw me. She was too busy seeing clients to see me. I went to my car in the parking lot and I cried. And I was like,
Oh,
okay,
that
God,
is
I hear
so,
you. Yeah, I will
yeah.
buy groceries every day. All I needed was more coupons. So I started collecting coupons at my church. They had a box and they collected coupons, and I just started doing this every day. And then I realized I couldn't fix this on my own. There were too many. So I started teaching other women how to do it. And pretty soon we had a tribe of people shopping for groceries with coupons. I would tell them how to do it and they would just follow my directions. And then ultimately it led to a website. If I could put that information on a website, then gosh, people in my entire state could use it. And so it grew from there. Then the media started following it. But let me just tell you something. You talked about in your podcast that I listened to, how we have to change our path sometime, but just keep following it. It's God's path. We might have an idea. My website ended up being, fast forward, a multi-million-dollar business. It ended up, now, that was never the intention. I was simply trying to get people to buy groceries for charity, and a website was the most convenient thing for me. I'm a mom with 2 little kids. I can't be traveling around the state teaching workshops. They've got lives. So it was perfect for me. But I just knew I was just this one woman with no extra money and no technical ability and just this really kind of like amateur website. There is no way I could grow this idea. So I actually spent my time trying to convince big companies to take the idea over. I had a PowerPoint presentation. I contacted CEOs of the grocery store chains, of the coupon companies. That was logical. They should want this idea to work, and very large hunger organizations. And they all gave me an audience. They were all very kind, but they all said, it's a great idea, but it's not our business plan. How can we help you though? Because we love the idea. So they never took the idea over, but they all helped me. They gave me free advertising. They got me in the newspaper. They helped get me, they paid for the website. They paid for posters and things in the grocery store. And ultimately, I just limped along and I did it on my own until my original investment, the money I spent out of my pocket, was $35. So, if someone had said, oh, you're going to own a website with millions of members that's going to make millions of dollars, I'd be like, how is that going to happen? I can't even work the remote control for my TV. I don't understand that. But like you said, step by step, one little step at a time. I always say, I never did a big thing. I just did a couple little things each day. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? It's just gradual, step by step. And pretty soon you look back and you say, hey, it made progress. That did work. So what do? We tend to underestimate ourselves. We look at the people who've already accomplished the big thing and we think, oh, I can't do that. Oh, well, maybe you can. So that's why I wrote the book. I want people to say, well, what is it I love to do? That lady who doesn't know anything about technology had a website and she was starting with grocery coupons. How stupid of a topic is that? So everyone else has something at least that interesting. I know that. So how?
Yes. And I love that your why made you cry. And it is a thing. I know when I went to the Lisa Nichols Speak and Write with my husband, and it was the main thing that I got out of it was they asked us to talk to the partner, the person next to us, what our why was. And when I told him, I cried. And then he got behind me and everything happened a lot faster with his support. And so, like, where I started to where I am right now, if you would have told me this is what I would be doing, I would have told you you were crazy, you were nuts. Like, I remember somebody suggesting you should rent the place. It's actually across the street from where I am now, and it was X amount, and I was like, oh my gosh, I could never do that. And so I just followed each step as it unfolded. And when I felt God's calling, I listened. I tested it out, usually 3 times, to make sure I was on track and hearing correctly. And so I just think it's that listening, praying, having that why, and being willing.
Yeah. Being willing.
Right.
Because no one said it's going to be easy. And it's interesting when I first started. So the way my experience was I told you, I'm teaching women how to use coupons. I'm inviting them to my house. And initially I thought what I'm going to teach them how to do is what I did, which is you figure out the grocery deals. You see what's on sale. It's a puzzle. Here are the items that are on sale this week. Okay, which ones of those have coupons available? Okay, I've searched through all fine. Oh, look, here's a match. Here's a match. Here's a match. And that's how you get these, items free or practically free. And I was going to teach that to women. Well, for me, that's fun. For them, it was like so confusing and so tedious. And they didn't think it was fun. And my mother said, why don't you just figure out the deals every week? Figure them out. You make up a list. You do the thinking. And then just give the list to people. And, they will have their own coupons, but you'll tell them where to find them. You'll make it super easy. So what I just described to you, this whole kind of matching up, that might take, like a coupon user like me who thinks it's a fun hobby, that might take 2 or 3 hours a week. But if you're following my list, it's only going to take you 15 minutes. So my mother was right. And now she said, go ahead and put that on the website. So that's what I did. So that was a new concept. There was no website that did all the figuring out for you that made it free. And that was the other thing. There were 2 websites I found in the country who did do the same thing, but they charged $60 a month. $60 a month. 20 years ago, that was a lot of money for a person who used coupons. So I thought, well, if I make mine free, how many more people could we get donating to charity, right?
Right, right.
So people were excited. People using the website were excited because they started saving so much money, which I always knew you could do, but they apparently didn't know because it was too hard. So when you said be willing, making that was the hardest step for me, making the commitment that I'm going to do this matching up thing and I have to do it well and I have to do it every single week. This is no longer optional anymore because people are relying on this. And that was the commitment. And out of my group of women, there were about 6 of us who were doing this. When it came time to, and who's going to do that? Nobody wanted to do it. And I was the only one. And that's what okay, God, I hear you saying that's what I need to do. I look back on it. It's terrible to say this, but thank goodness they all didn't say yes, or I'd be dividing my business 6 ways. But at the time, it wasn't a business. Had those women known that at the time, the way our website made money, we didn't charge people money, but you have ads on your website. But in 2000, the advertisers that we hadn't been invented yet. So the advertisers we ended up relying on and making all of our money from didn't start until 6 years after I started. Okay. So people are like, oh yeah, you started this to make money. No, I wish I'd had a money make. I didn't. I just had a people come and you're going to love it idea. So when people start talking about initiatives or businesses, so many times you get tripped up with, well, how am I going to make money? And Amazon didn't worry about that. They said, let's just get so big and so wonderful, people can't resist us. And then Facebook didn't worry about that. They didn't have any ads at the beginning. They just got really big and wonderful, and then they put ads on. So in our case, by the time we got big enough, then the advertisers were invented. And then they contacted me and they said, hey, we're a new company. Here's how fabulous it is. So people by that point, hundreds of thousands of people are coming to my website. And the ads were grocery coupons you could print free. Those were the ads. Those didn't exist yet. It was brand new. People lost their minds. They're like, oh, I don't have to buy the newspaper. I can just print coupons from your website. I'm like, yes. And every time you do, I get 3 cents. So please do it. So you know what? That for me was such an example of, that's why my book is called Imagine More. It's based on the Bible verse, Ephesians 3:20. To him who can do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine, according to his power that is within us. I never thought we'd be able to get millions of people to use our website. I certainly didn't think advertisers were going to be invented doing something wonderful that our people loved and that it was all going to work out beautifully. You can't even imagine that stuff. So you talked, I loved your Motivation Monday yesterday, just simply saying, take one step at a time, because we don't know what he has in store, but don't give up too soon. Had I given up before that 6 years, if you give up too soon, this is my analogy. It's like you're in a long line with your winning lottery ticket, but you don't know it's the winning ticket. But you decide you're not going to wait in line. You throw your ticket away and you walk away. Just stay in line. Wait.
Don't give up.
Be patient. Don't give up. You have no idea. And in the process, in this journey that we go through, the fun is all the experiences you have along the way, all the relationships you make along the way. There are a lot of ways to measure success. It's not just money. It's, did you make an impact? How about emails that you get from people? You get emails from people. You have an impact on their lives. There's so many ways to measure success. So I encourage people not to just focus on the financial bottom line, because there's a lot of ways to help other people and measure your success.
And really having a solution to other people's problems.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah. The biggest way to make money, even if you weren't thinking about that to begin with. And over 41 years ago, fitness wasn't really a career, but I had a passion for it. And so I could have done other things making much more money. We weren't paid very much. And I remember just wanting to do that. And every step of the way, God provided for me, and he still does. Every step of the way, from that first Reebok tennis shoe to being in the Sisterhood of Sweat to having a podcast, the gym, just all of the things, to speaking, to having books, to shooting for covers of magazines and being on Times Square billboards. That is not what I mean, once upon a time, I was leaving a bad situation behind because I was a mom with 2 kids and a victim of domestic violence.
Mm.
And I wanted to have that place that I wish I would have had, where women could go and be supported and be empowered and find strength and confidence in. So I remember praying about that and wanting, so much, God, someday when I'm past this story and I am able, I want to have that place. And he started with a small studio. It was small and scrappy, and it's just grown to what it is now. And I see it being even larger than that with the community. So I think,
Tell me what it is now, because I don't live there, so I haven't seen it. What's it like?
okay, it's a place where women come. It's warm. Everybody supports each other. They say it's their happy place.
Oh, I love that.
And women feel like they can let their hair down, and that they don't feel competitive with each other. It's more of a collaboration.
Nice.
And I think that able to come in, and when I do personal training or different things, it's very healing, because we're dealing with more than just getting in shape. It's so much more than that. It's like sisterhood is therapy, and it's kind of like everybody always tells me training with me is like having a therapy session.
Yeah.
But I try to pour belief and positivity and all of that, all the
Mhm.
things I wish I would have had, into each and every woman that comes through those
Mm.
doors.
How wonderful. How wonderful. You said 41 years ago. I haven't met you in person. I am sitting on a Zoom call, and I thought you were in your 30s.
Well, that
So,
is the sweetest thing ever. I
um,
am 61. I'm a year.
oh my gosh. Okay. Whatever you're doing, I need to start doing that.
Well, I think you look pretty darn good yourself.
Oh,
So,
well, we got to get the filter going. Well, that is exciting. So I just am so curious. So 41 years ago, were you doing, like, workout videos? Did you do the Jane Fonda video?
oh
Did you
my
do
gosh, hilarious
the
that you would
Reebok
say.
step video? You remember the Reebok step video?
Yes. Oh gosh. I literally started with Jane Fonda
Yeah.
and leg warmers and Reebok tennis shoes.
Yes.
And I'm very partial to all three. And in fact, I'm hoping for my shoot on Thursday that they go for the idea, because I have this, it's my brand colors. It's candy and turquoise, one piece with leg warmers
Oh,
and
yeah.
white tennis shoes, because it's what I started with.
Yeah.
And it's just like everything has evolved since that moment. My daughter even shot Jane Fonda for a magazine, and she was in my belly when I started teaching class.
How funny. How funny. Yeah,
And
no, I remember. We called it aerobics. Remember the aerobics? I'm going to aerobics, but anyway, I don't mean to get off on a tangent, but yeah, I agree. It's some sort of physical exercise is my happy place too. But yeah.
so what do you think? Like, we have a lot of women out here that have been busy working and may have careers they don't love, but they pay the bills.
Yeah.
And, or they may be sitting at home and taking care of 3, 4 children, and they are getting to that empty nest place where they're like, oh gosh, I don't even know what my purpose is because I've been raising kids, or I've had this career for so long, I don't even know what I want. How can they begin to discover their purpose, their calling?
Well, and that's, it's interesting because our society is different than other cultures in terms of how we view older people. In the US, we tend to think, younger is better. Whereas in other cultures, being older is more esteemed and more respected. And if you think about it, someone once said to me, basketball games are really like won or lost in the last couple of minutes. And so if I'm turning 60 in a few days, let's say if I'm lucky, let's say I get to live 20 more years. I'm in the last quarter of my life. But look at all we have all learned to get to this point. So as compared to our 20s, I believe we're more confident. We care less about what people think. We have thicker skin. We have been through a lot of things. So we know that you can go through tough things and survive. We know that things are going to get better when they're not great. It's not our first rodeo. We've had these experiences. So doesn't it make sense that at this point we would be more productive? Like we'd be able, whatever we try, we're going to be better at, because we're not going to be wasting our time on that stupid stuff. And anyone over 60 knows what I'm talking about. So going at it from that perspective, I think we should say we actually have a lot more to contribute
Right.
to the world right now than we did when we were in our 20s.
Yeah.
We were on fire. So let's start. There's 2 ways I tell people to go at it. One is start with what you love to do. Again, we've talked about this. It could be anything. But just start with what you love to do. Now try to think about, can I help anyone with that? Let's suppose you love painting. Well, surely there's an after-school program where there are kids where maybe you could volunteer and teach how to paint. And that's just one little example. You could take any skill and you could find any group of people who would benefit from that. And we all know that when you get outside of yourself and when you focus more on giving to other people,
Yeah.
we get happier. We
Right.
get happier. We think we're making other people happy, but what we discover is we're happier. Okay, then there's a second way you can go about it, and it's what you said, Linda. What's the why that makes you cry? Is there a group, is there a segment of the population that breaks your heart? Their situation breaks your heart. And can you approach some sort of leader in that segment to say, how can I help? So say, for example, you really care about foster kids. You really care about the fact, at least in our state, at the age of 18, they are done with the foster care system. They're put out to fend for themselves at the age of 18. Obviously, this is something that breaks my heart because my kids weren't ready to support themselves and take care of themselves at 18. And unfortunately, a very high percentage of foster kids have bad outcomes because of that. They end up in prison, they end up being homeless, they end up being addicted or in prostitution. Okay, does that break your heart? Okay, what do they need? So they might say, you know what, Linda, we need someone to teach life skills. Can you do that? Well, maybe I can't right now, but give me time to read a book and then I can. So if there's something that breaks your heart, you can make a difference. You might have to learn a little bit to do what they need, but you can make a difference. Now, there's a great book out right now called Build the Life You Want, written by Oprah and a Harvard professor, talking about what truly makes people happy. And this is based on scientific research, lots and lots of Harvard research. And there's 3 elements. One is enjoying something. The second is getting satisfaction from doing it. And the third is having a sense of purpose from it. And that's exactly what we're talking about here. Those are like the macronutrients of happiness. Those are the 3 things that if you put together will equal happiness for ourselves. And what's happening there? You're giving to other people. You're giving to other people doing something you love to do. So It shouldn't be hard to find, but the fun of it is this. Once you land on that as being your goal, this is my project, this is what I'm looking for, you'd be surprised at what you start to notice. What people say to you, you might pick up, like I picked up the church bulletin, I saw that list. Would I have noticed that had I not been intently focused on trying to watch and pay attention? How's God going to talk to me? And how can I find this thing I love to do? I've got to pay attention. So I've gone on too long, but obviously this really hits a point with me because there's nothing sadder to me than a person at the age of 60 saying there's nothing left. Like the best, I can say this because I felt like this when I was 50. When I turned 50, I thought, are my best years behind me? And the answer is no, you've had great years behind you. Absolutely. But guess what? There's so much in front of you. Don't waste a minute thinking that your best years are behind you. Who knows what's ahead of you? There's all kinds of stories about incredibly successful people who didn't start doing what they were doing until they were 80. So
So true. I didn't really start to everything till I was 50, and then 60, I'm really hitting my stride. So
right.
I think, like the Bible says, I don't remember where the verse is, but my people perish without vision. And like, you're having a vision is what makes you want to get out of bed in the morning and
Mm-hmm.
makes you come alive. And when you are putting that with passion and purpose and helping other people, imagine how much more you could get behind that when you just decide. It's really about just deciding.
Yes. Yes, that's it.
So you decided, and you ended up on Good Morning America and the Oprah Show.
Yeah. That was, and that's the crazy thing is sometimes you dream about something happening, but you don't really think it would. Didn't happen immediately. I went on Oprah 8 years after starting what I was starting. So, but guess what? I said in my book, I told the story. Had I been called by the Oprah show when I first started, before I had all the kinks worked out, it would not have been. My website would have crashed. It wasn't strong enough yet. But by the time they called after 8 years, it was developed well enough that we could handle that. And so it ended up being a huge success for us. I was on the show for 6 minutes. No, maybe it was 5 minutes. 5 minutes. It's kind of all you need. That's all. I mean, it's not like there are plenty of people who went on Oprah's show and she tapped him and said, "Oh, you're now our expert." And they went on 1,000,000 times. I mean, I only went on 5 minutes of my whole life, and that was the turning point. There are all kinds of other opportunities like that. That's just one example that will come up if you become really good at what you're doing. And I think that's an important point to make. Especially if you're starting with something that you love to do, just continue to get better and better and better and better at it and be an expert at it. Okay, so if you're an expert at it, and if you pick something, as I did, grocery coupons, you don't have a lot of people competing with you to be expert at grocery coupons. Don't pick anything really popular, pick the less popular things. But, it's very satisfying when it's something you love to do and you continue to learn about it. You don't get stale. And then in many cases, as in my case, when the news cycle hits that topic and they need it, they'll call upon you. So unfortunately, the Oprah call came because our country had just sunk into a recession. They weren't calling when the economy was healthy. So if you can become known in your field, then when your expertise is needed, you'll be called upon. And guess what? It's pretty nice that's when you really do feel helpful. After the Oprah episode, I had so many emails and so many people who were helped because of that exposure. So you don't know where things can lead, but again, back to trust, one step at a time. If those 6 women at my house who all said, "No, I don't want to be a part of this," how do you oh, no, I don't want to go on Oprah. Oh, okay, I understand. You can't know the ending. You can't You can't expect that kind of thing, but you can be surprised by it. And
So
that
good.
can
So
be a lot
good.
of fun.
What do you think that you have learned from all of this that you want to share with every woman out there?
So I am going to share something with you that that I've learned. I've learned that just it sounds trite, but I'm going to tell you this from where I sit. On paper, I have a pretty good success now. I could say, yeah, I had a multi-million-dollar business. Yeah, I went on Oprah. Yeah, this is my third book. I had on the New York Times bestseller list. Okay, so all of the things that sound good that you aspire to, and I'm thankful that I achieved them because the most important thing is being able to give away a lot. Everyone likes to give. So I am super thankful for that. It really wasn't, it was a gift from God. Everything is a gift from God. So letting go of some of it, and I want to talk really quickly about this project. But what I've really learned is the only thing that matters are our relationships. The only thing that matters are the people who we love and our
Mm-hmm.
friends and our
Yes.
family. And you don't have to have all of this material success. You don't have to have all of these things in your resume. So I could save people a lot of time to say, you know what? Everything you have right now, look around. You've got it all right now. And so when we talk about imagine more, it's not just about achieving something, it's about looking at our current lives through a different lens. I am going to look at my current life and my current relationships for the miracle and the gift that they are. And maybe I will have more peace and contentment and satisfaction and happiness with the life I already have. I don't have to change my life. But there is one thing I want to say, and that's this. When I got this book deal, they paid me. That was actually kind of a surprise. I was just happy that they were willing to publish it. So I committed then 100% of what I was paid. I'm giving out as grants to people who are starting projects. I'm calling this the Imagine More Project. And I got the idea because when I started my idea 20 years ago, had no money, there was a company that was having an essay contest for people starting charitable initiatives. And the prize was $1,000. That was a lot of money to me. So I did the essay. Apparently, I was the only one who entered because I won. I got the $1,000 and I bought my first computer. My family couldn't afford a new computer. So but I'll tell you what, it was so affirming because they gave me the prize. So I'm on the other side of that now. And so I'll be giving out $1,000 to $2,000 grants, hopefully to dozens of people. It's called the Imagine More Project. My website is stephanienelson.com. You can go there. There's an Imagine More tab, and we have a Facebook group. I want to build a community of dreamers. My tagline is, we give small grants to people with big dreams. And then there's an application. People can apply. And, I'm just excited at this point in my life in getting to know and encourage dreamers because I get it. I don't have enough energy to do another one of those things, but I have enough energy to encourage the people who do.
Oh, right. Because your big dreams do take some energy. And what I have learned is you're not dreaming big enough, that each step is going to lead to the next, to where you're going to realize, oh, what was I so afraid of?
You know what? Because each is a tiny step. Exactly. What was I so afraid of? Yeah. And you need a friend next to you to talk you off the ledge when you are terrified. I remember first time I went on TV, I was so, so, so nervous. Oh my gosh, I could not. Every time I thought about it, it just made me dizzy. My brother said, "What are you so afraid of?" I said, "Well, I don't know. They're going to ask me questions on live TV." And he said, "What question could they ask you about coupons that you don't know? And they're not going to ask you any other subject. You're on there to talk about." And as soon as he said that, I was like, "You're right. What am I afraid of? It's your topic. They're not going to ask you anything else. Hi, what do you think about the trouble in the Middle East?" No, they're not. They're only going to ask you about grocery coupons. So it's not that hard.
Oh
And
gosh.
I'll never forget that sentence. And I'll tell you, that just calmed me right down. It also reminds us that it's not that big of a deal.
I always had to work on value. I always had to work on, I'm the person to do that thing,
Oh,
the value part. And I think a lot of people do.
yeah.
And it's so many things that it's kind of you all encompassing, figuring out that God wouldn't call you to do something if you weren't capable,
Oh, I love that.
if you weren't
Yeah.
fully, if you didn't have the tools, he wouldn't ask you to do it. And then getting out of your own way, not being afraid, because you have to think about the people that are on the other side of that dream who you're going to help.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. You have to think about that. And so many times when we're afraid, what we're doing is we're turning the lens on ourselves instead of, again, let's get out of ourselves and focus on, like you said, the people on the other side of that. I love that.
And two, you know enough,
Right.
you have enough, you definitely are enough to do these things. And so many times we think, oh, how can I do that? I don't have X, Y, and Z. But generally it just starts with that, again, that first step of doing it, making the decision. And then all those other steps, like Martin Luther King says on the staircase, they start to show up. And then you know what to do next.
Hmm. Well, and I always say, in order to be an expert, you only have to know a little more than the average person in your subject. You don't have to know everything. You just have to know a little more than the average person.
Oh, so, so true. And you're going to do it differently. You're going to bring your own flavor to it.
Right.
And that's what makes the world go around. I've like so enjoyed talking to you about your book. The project, how can people, what is the website again? Where can they get your book?
Yes,
And
the book
yeah,
is being sold everywhere, Amazon, everywhere you buy books. The details about my project, speaking, and that sort of thing is at my website, stephanienelson.com. I'm on Instagram at Stephanie Nelson CM. It's not hard to find, but I hope, the fun now at this point in my life is hearing from people. So if anyone needs to be encouraged or has an idea, just send me an email. I would love to talk to you about it.
and we're talking to a New York Times bestseller, a person that owned a multi-million-dollar business. Also, you are now giving away money. You were on the Good Morning America, the Oprah show, so many things that you never sought out.
Right.
You just had this vision of people you wanted to help, and you got started, and look where it ended up. So for anyone out there listening, I hope that inspires you to take action on your dream today.
I love that. Thanks so much, Linda. It's been so great to talk to you. I'm inspired by you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I've really loved having you on. I love how down to earth you are, and how, like you said, you didn't sugarcoat anything. And I think that was the secret to your success, as well as just trusting in God that you were on the right path. And so I really appreciate your heart for others, that you literally sat in the car and cried after you saw those women that were literally struggling to feed their families.
Well, thanks so much. I appreciate those kind words.
And so this concludes this episode of the Sisterhood of Sweat. Make sure to get Stephanie's book, Imagine More. And as always, keep on keeping on, everyone. Bye, everybody.